Friday. Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, I'm Molly Karam Rose. Guys, round one is in the books. We got all that good reaction today. Hope you guys were able to get some sleep because we got a lot to discuss. Stephen A.
A little bit. I was amped.
Yeah, right. Stephen A., you mentioned it. A lot of juicy quarterback news, but your boy Aaron Rodgers kind of hijacking the draft. We'll get to that in a hot second. But first, the quarterback draftees, the Niners pulling the okey doke, traded up to the 3 spot to get Trey Lance, not Mac Jones. The Bears trading the farm for the second time, and then remember the Mitchell Trubisky debacle to get Justin Fields. And Bill Belichick picking up his friend Nick Saban's former quarterback, Mac Jones. Return of the Mac. Max, Bigger quarterback news. Lance, Fields, or Jones?
It's easily Justin Fields because it's the Chicago Bears. Guys, Justin Fields. We were arguing like a year ago, wait, are we sure it's Trevor Lance and not Justin Fields who should be the number 1 overall pick when they come out? That was out there. It's 1A and 1B. Justin Fields could have easily been the second pick in this draft. And the Bears, guys, they've never, ever had a quarterback. Not in the Super Bowl era. Not really. Jim McMahon, he won a Super Bowl for sure. But then came out and said that he had a better time on the Packers. It's a better organization where he was a third stringer when Favre won than when he won as a starting quarterback on the greatest team of all time, the 85 Bears. They've never had a quarterback. Stephen A., when Jay Cutler is the first guy that comes to mind, who are the best quarterbacks in your lifetime with the Bears? And Jay Cutler is the first or second name that comes to mind? You got to be kidding. I saw some crazy stat. No Bears quarterback in the Super Bowl era has thrown for, maybe ever, has thrown for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Some kind of like modest standard like that. And they got Justin Fields. And Stephen A., they gave up a haul to get him, to move up 9 slots. Remember, I thought they were going to trade up with Atlanta for the 4th pick, because that way they are sure to get their guy. But once he fell, they traded up 9 slots. They gave up a 4th, a 5th, and a 1st to go up 9 slots to make sure they got their man. The Chicago Bears have a quarterback. Stephen A., they're not going into this season trying to sell their fan base this or next season on Andy Dalton or someone like that. They got their man.
Listen, I'm not trying to knock anything about Justin Fields. I think he's terrific. Me personally, I had him as a top 2 quarterback in the NFL draft, and I know how big time he is, and I understand what you're saying, but that's nostalgia you're talking about. That's the history and the tradition of the Chicago Bears and what have you, and they've never had an elite quarterback per se, even when they won the Super Bowl in '85, doing it, just with Walter Payton and those words, "We are the Bears, the shuffling crew." You remember that song and all of this other stuff. I mean, remember all of that. Yeah. All of that other stuff. But here's what the bottom line is: Refrigerator Perry and Walter Payton, all of this other stuff. I'm going with Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones being in New England with Bill Belichick has found his successor to Tom Brady. That does not mean that we'll see him week 1. But this is a guy in Mac Jones that threw for 4,500 yards last season at Alabama, won a national championship, did so by throwing for 41 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions. And oh, by the way, I think setting an NCAA record for completing passes. 77.4% of his passes he completed. This brother is accurate. He's poised. He obviously has played for a big-time program. He's played for a big-time coach in Nick Saban, who prepares guys for the NFL like no other. You take all of that into consideration. You look at what Devontae Smith came on this very show and said just the other day about Mac Jones. He not only knows his job, he knows what everyone else is supposed to be doing, okay? And more importantly, he's a leader who makes sure he holds people accountable, that you have to do your job. So understand that's basically an extension of the coach, because that's what Nick Saban is most known for outside of winning, of course. And when you look at it from that perspective, and then you take into account all the years of success we saw from New England at the quarterback position, what did they have? A guy relatively immobile, but a guy that was a football savant, that knew what everybody else was supposed to do, that knew what he needed to do, that was an accurate passer, that was a system quarterback. Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniel is still there. When you look at somebody, if you had to look at one quarterback in this draft that was similar in style and similar in terms of what the kind of things that Tom Brady brought to the table and what we anticipate this guy will be able to bring to the table. He was that one guy, and I think that he landed in the perfect spot. And we're talking about the New England Patriots. I don't give a damn about the Bears tradition. I give a damn about the recent history of the New England Patriots over the last 20 years.
Not just
Bill
the
Belichick
tradition.
And Josh McDaniel is still there.
It's the fan base that is so. Look, Chicago fancies itself a football town. They care more about the Bears than anything. I keep going back to that SNL skit from the 80s, Stephen A. The Bears, the 80s, the Bears. The Bulls had two different three-peats, and they're talking about the Bears because of one Super Bowl. And they haven't ever had a quarterback. And they finally got one. There are three stories out of the draft as it relates to quarterbacks. Let's face it. First was the Trey Lance surprise. I actually think that's a bigger story than Mac Jones falling to Bill Belichick. The real story with Mac Jones is Belichick didn't have to trade up to get him. He fell to Belichick, and everyone goes, of course, Belichick gets his guy, doesn't even have to move up. But I think Trey Lance is the second biggest story to Justin Fields, for a variety of reasons, that the Niners take that guy over the guy everyone said. Was that a smokescreen the whole time? Is there something going on with Green Bay? Because they think, who knows? But that's a huge story. We'll get to that later. Justin Fields, the guy who you just said was the second best quarterback in the draft, to Trevor Lawrence, the guy who was as ballyhooed as anyone coming out of high school, except for maybe Trevor Lawrence. 1A to Trevor Lawrence's 1 this whole time. And he has a chip on his shoulder. Like, this guy's going to come and saying, oh, really? Mm-hmm. I fell out of the top 10? Oh, it is and Chicago Bears fans right now are happier than any fan base.
Do I get to respond to that drivel? Because you keep bringing up the quarterback and you forget who's coaching him. Matt Nagy, you forget who the GM is, Ryan Pace. You forget that these are the same individuals that had no choice but to move up to get him, because when you pass up on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson by moving up in the draft to draft Mitchell Trubisky, number 2 overall a few years ago, and then, by the way, turns around, he's not even on the squad anymore. He's a backup in Buffalo. Excuse me, you didn't have a choice. So the fact that he landed in Chicago is a beautiful thing, but it was desperation on their part because their jobs are on the line. This doesn't work out. Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are not going to be there as coach and GM. Both of them will be gone. You can book it. I understand the fan base, but I think the years have passed, Max, where that's not applicable in this argument any longer, because any team, any city that has an NFL team, that's the city that cares about football more than basketball. I don't know of an NFL city, a city with an NFL team, okay, that cares about anything more than football.
New York and LA.
Excuse me?
New York and LA.
Well, not New York. You got me on LA. You got me on LA with the Rams because obviously the Lakers are bigger than the Rams. I'll give you that. That's the one argument. Totally. That you got me. You got me right there. What did it say New York though? It's just
we could debate New York another time.
Listen, when the Giants are winning, excuse me, is it anything bigger? The fact of the matter, in East Rutherford, New Jersey. No, because we wouldn't know. You don't know that. You have no evidence of that because the Knicks haven't won since 1973. We've seen the Yankees
I can tell you this.
We've seen the Yankees win. And again, we can take it for granted because we're arrogant. But when the Giants are winning, it's big.
All right.
Stephen A., when the Knicks were good but not great in the 80s, they were getting $1,000 to $1,500 for courtside seats to watch Patrick Ewing. Giants and Yankees weren't getting that.
I'm just saying.
But listen, I don't want to get far into the weeds on that one.
We have plenty of time for New York. Yeah, let's the NFC North. The tides could be turning, but guys, you know who really has a chip on his shoulder? Aaron Charles Rodgers, and that's the story we got to get to right now. So apparently he wants out, so disgruntled with the Green Bay Packers that he's told some within the organization he does not want to return to the team, according to Adam Schefter. Packers GM Brian Gutekunst asked about Rodgers last night. Listen up, y'all.
Obviously, he's our quarterback. He's our leader. We've been working through this for a little while now, and I just think it may take some time, but he's the guy that kind of makes this thing go. So he gives us the best chance to win, and we're not going to trade Aaron Rodgers.
Let me just remind you who we're dealing with. This is a Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl MVP, 3-time regular season MVP. Let's not forget, they drafted a quarterback in the first round of 2020. Ooh. I will leave you with that. I said chip on his shoulder. I think I meant to say boulder on his shoulder. Stephen A., should Rodgers refuse to play for the Green Bay Packers?
Yes, absolutely, without question. I mean, he should be done with them. He should listen. Let me put into perspective how much I really, really feel about this, y'all. Let me make sure I look into the camera and say this to all of y'all right now while y'all looking at me. If I were Aaron Rodgers, I would have walked off the field at the NFC Championship game. I would have walked into the locker room. I would have shook my teammates' hands. And I would have said goodbye. And I never would have spoken to the Green Bay Packers again. If I could pull that off. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This is Aaron Rodgers. When you took the ball, that was the final straw. Now,